Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's another episode of your Spartan Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Chris, and I'm joined with my co-host, Zach, today. Emmett unfortunately couldn't join us today. He's on vacation, still enjoying his summer. I guess we'll let him since he's going to be really busy during football season, traveling for media stuff. So we'll give him a break this time, but he should be back for our next episode. But we're back with you today and wanted to update you on the recent news. A little bit of football. We had some breaking baseball news from today. Basketball, lots of hockey stuff to cover. Not a lot of it is great, but that's all right. So we'll kind of touch on all that and get you geared up for the next few weeks in here in July. So appreciate the patience on us getting this episode out after the holiday, but welcome back. We missed y'all. And Zach, thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster type of episode for news-wise. Mostly going to be positive, though, so obviously excited about that. Sad that Emmett obviously couldn't make it, but he's on vacation, so like you said, Chris, you can't necessarily blame him for that, even though we probably will at some point blame him for that in this episode. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so just excited to talk a little bit about MSU. We got some really good basketball news with Jase. We also got football. We got baseball as well. Really exciting news for
Yeah.
that. And then obviously hockey at this point that I feel like probably everyone knows about, sadly. But still going to be a great team. So
Yeah.
overall, all things looking up.
I can't complain too much because hockey has carried a lot of vibes for us this past year. But we'll wait to touch on hockey. We'll start with football. It's probably the oldest news at this point, but we've been off for a little bit, so we'll make sure everybody was aware. I believe the MSU picked up another commit. I believe it was right on the 3rd or 4th of July. We were off doing our holiday stuff, but if you follow us on Twitter, you certainly got the updates. 6'3", 250-pound edge rusher Chris Addison from Winsboro, Louisiana, committed to the Spartans. Thumbs up for the edge rusher recruits. We appreciate that. Kind of a surprising, I guess, commitment if you followed his recruitment a little bit. He was a pretty heavily favored Florida State guy. A lot of experts had thought he was going to end up there. They were recruiting him pretty hard. And then about the day before his commitment, it seemed like just out of nowhere the tide started to turn, and there was some rumblings that he may go with MSU. And sure enough, we're getting a commitment, and it was a little bit later at night too, I believe. But when the news really kind of broke, so we'll take it any way we can get it. Chris is a 89 overall if you follow 24/7. So that fringe 4-star. We caught a little bit of flack on Twitter from some fans from the school down the road regarding that. Yes, he is a 3-star. I've never said he wasn't a 3-star, but he's on that fringe 3-star, 4-star rankings if you follow those. So could be one of those candidates that could get bumped up to a 4-star when the rankings recalculate at the start of the season. So something to look out for. But regardless, a solid pickup for Jonathan Smith and the defense. And we've talked about it at length in multiple episodes that we've needed edge rusher help, and we're a little bit worried about the edge rusher position. So here's someone coming to hopefully help. So Zach, your thoughts on picking up Chris and what it means for this class?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, even though Emmett is not here. I'm absolutely going to reaffirm what he would probably say is that he would get the Michigan State downgrade
Downgrade.
for recruiting, not a bump. So, is he a 4-star? Hopefully. Is he going to probably be one in the future? Probably not, because of the Michigan State downgrade at this point. That's
Yeah.
what we should call it. It's not the Michigan State bump, it's the Michigan State downgrade. But outside of that, like you're talking about, Chris, obviously love the fact that he is a defensive end. Obviously, it was no secret last year. Michigan State really struggled to get pressure on a quarterback. 6 games. Please never do that again. I cannot handle 6 games without a single sack. Now, obviously, with kind of your defense coordinator, with Rossi being around another year, hopefully he might be able to drop a few more blitzes, maybe try to drop a few more packages to kind of get a little bit more help with pressure. But obviously, it's a really big get. Florida State, really great program down in Florida. He's from, I think you said Louisiana, so right down south. So obviously, getting a guy from down south, you're never going to necessarily complain. Especially, you're not going to complain about a guy that you're quote unquote behind for majority of the time, and then one day you just take the lead and you get the commitment the next day. That's just kind of the way that recruiting is really going. It's obviously a great pickup for Jonathan Smith. Just continue to stack guys on that defensive line continue to get pressure, and hopefully we can kind of get Michigan State back to where they were like pre like was in where you had like a Shalik Calhoun, you had a Kenny Wilkes. Can we just get some defensive end help in there? Hopefully Chris is going to be one of those guys that can help with that.
Yeah, the back in the glory days. But I like this pickup too myself. Like you mentioned, it was a position of need that we were all fairly frustrated with the past season. Hopefully, even though he's not on campus this, this upcoming season, he'll still be a long-term fit. And I think this year's room could also be a little step better than last year's. But yeah, overall, it's just a pretty good pickup. He's raw, he's got some chance to develop, I should say. But the frame's there. Multi-sport athlete, he kind of fits that Jonathan Smith build where he's been recruiting very athletic. Overall, people that multi-sport athletes in high school that can really do a whole lot. Chris, for example, throws the javelin in high school and then also plays basketball on top of the football. His last year, he also played a little bit on offense, had 12 receptions, and then also had 8.5 sacks and 63 total tackles. So plays both sides of the ball, can do a whole lot. Obviously, I think he'll stick to defensive line in the college realm, and under the right strength and conditioning program, he's got the potential to be a high impact player if he develops his frame and body and his pass rush set in his hands. But, all the tools are there. It's just it's going to be one of those pieces that may take a couple of years to eventually develop into his full potential. But if he does, he could be really effective at the college level and maybe even someone you see playing on Sundays in the long run. So I think it was a really good pickup, someone who really could make a difference in the pass rush game in the future. So kudos to Coach Smith and Coach Rossi and the whole defensive crew on that pickup. I think it's a good ad and someone that we should all be excited for personally. So he's also got a killer first name, so can't blame that. But
love the first name. Also, can I say he's now my favorite recruit because he throws the javelin. So honestly, that is me just buying in. Is that he is my favorite recruit just because one, he's a defensive end, and two, he throws the javelin, and he also had like 12 receptions too. So he's my new favorite guy in this class just because of the javelin throwing.
Yeah, you got to love those multi-sport athletes. And of course, those field guys from track and field don't often get a lot of love. So we'll take that. But let's switch sports. Let's go over to Zach's favorite realm, the college baseball realm. This is breaking news as of, about 10, 15 minutes ago when we were getting the pre-show stuff loaded to start recording. MSU pitcher extraordinaire Joseph Dzierwa picked 58th overall in the MLB draft tonight, and he is heading to the Baltimore Orioles in their farm system. So congrats to Joseph. Well deserved. We figured he'd be picked fairly early in the draft, and he certainly was. Kind of hoping he would fall a couple more picks and maybe the Tigers would pick him up right around there, but no such luck. And Baltimore got a really high developing potential prospect, left-handed pitching prospect for the future there. Or who knows, maybe the Tigers can strike a deal and get him later on. So, but congrats to Joseph. That's awesome for him and awesome for MSU baseball, another drafted prospect. Zach, I'll let you break that down a little bit more because he was your guy and baseball is your sport, but he was picked early like we thought he would be.
Yeah, I would have loved to see him in the first round, did go second round, but if you have a spot where you're kind of hoping he would go to, I think Baltimore's near one of those spots just because Baltimore needs pitching. Now, with him being a college pitcher, that means that he's probably going to kind of go through the ranks of the minor league system faster than, let's say, a prep. Now, obviously, with him being picked in the second round, with being a college pitcher and kind of where the Orioles are right now, I definitely think it shows that they kind of need pitchers. So I think that's obviously going to play really well into what the Orioles want to do. But just really happy for him overall. He came into Michigan State. He had the frame to be a really great pitcher. Was a great pitcher, obviously, his freshman year. Was actually committed to Vanderbilt and then actually came back, which was an absolutely huge deal for Michigan State, obviously. This year, put on weight, put on muscle, and you absolutely saw the potential. And I think he's a guy that's going to continue to just put on weight, continue to kind of grow into his frame. And I think he's going to be a guy with the Orioles being a left-handed pitcher that's going to hopefully be able to contribute to that team in a couple years, maybe even a little bit less, and kind of see the plan for the Orioles so far with some of their draft picks. They have Adley Rutschman at catcher, one of the best catchers in the MLB. They also just went to go get two catchers as well before and after Joseph Dzierwa. So I think they're really trying to invest in the pitching staff, invest in catching. And I think that's really going to play very well for him. And he's going to be in a really, really tough division when he eventually hopefully gets up to the MLB. He's going to be facing some of the best teams in the MLB. I'm assuming still by the time he gets to that point. But being picked second round is no slouch. Absolutely happy for him. Obviously would have loved to see him in Detroit. Not going to necessarily happen right away, but he's not going to be in a bad situation for kind of where he plays. And they need pitchers, and he's going to be a guy that hopefully can get up to the major leagues in a little while. So really happy for him. Well deserved. Shout out to the coaching staff. They developed him. They basically helped him become the pitcher he is, at least kind of build into that frame, build into that potential. And I think we still haven't seen the full potential at this point.
No, absolutely. And like I said, the solid pickup for the Orioles, and their farm system is one that their top two prospects aren't pitchers. They're fielders, and really only one of their top five prospects currently, one of their top six prospects currently, according to MLB.com, is a pitcher. So it's an area of need. They do have quite a few right-handed pitchers. If you throw it out to their top 10 prospects, 5 right-handed pitchers. So getting a lefty in there, I think he's going to be someone who's highly touted, and like Zach said, maybe get the preferential treatment if he goes down to the minors and starts doing well. I could see him also maybe starting in like a AA level instead of having to go through rookie ball or single A. Not necessarily for sure, but something possible. Just wherever he does start, though, if he puts together some good outings and really starts to understand and learn what he needs to learn, I could see him shooting up the farm system pretty quickly because, as Zach noted, Baltimore is in need of pitching on their major league roster, and they don't have too many left-handed arms in the farm system either. So, but yeah, congrats to Joseph. That's great news. We love to hear our Spartans getting picked, and we appreciate the Orioles for doing it before we started recording and not after, because I thought for sure that was going to happen.
Probably knowing our podcast, it definitely would have happened. But I can see him starting maybe high A, double A, maybe a couple of starts high A, maybe towards kind of the second half. High A, he performs maybe well, maybe double A, but I think high A probably for the rest of the year, and then probably double A starting next year.
Yeah.
Maybe they go double A depending on kind of timeline, but I think kind of you start out in high A. So I would be shocked if he gets double A, but hey, if they think as highly as I do, put him in the MLB system right now. Just joking. Please don't do that. Please don't ruin Joseph Dzierwa at this point.
Yeah, that might not be the best idea. I could see him getting like maybe the Casey Mize treatment just to relate it back to the Tigers. A college pitcher who had success in college and is a little bit older, knows the game, and was able to really kind of rise through the farm system fairly quickly. I know the Tigers were a little extra cautious with Mize. I mean, they weren't necessarily in a hurry to bring up their prospects, but once he got there, he was, there to stay, counting minus the injury. But yeah, regardless, congrats to Joseph. Great news. We're super excited for him, and best of luck out in the Orioles farm system. Hopefully you don't do too well when you have to face the Tigers. Just kind of well, maybe. That'd be great. Moving on to basketball, just some quick notes. Our wonderful Jase Richardson, he has made his summer league debut for the Magic. Had his first game the other day against the Kings. It had 14 points, came in and actually led the Magic on a 12-0 run shortly after coming into the game. Ended up 14 total points on the game, so solid debut. His second game was today, actually. That went final about an hour before we started recording. I don't think we mentioned it, but we're recording this on Sunday night, the 13th. So, and it's about 10 o'clock. So good for Jase. He had his second game today, 19 points. And so he's been a nice little bright spot for the Magic in the Summer League. Kind of figured that would happen, but good for Jase. Hopefully that leads into some quality opportunities coming up shortly for the big team. We kind of touched on it when he got drafted. There is a role for him potentially on the Magic if things go well. And so far, a good start. Hopefully that leads to some minutes in the NBA this upcoming season. But Zach, any thoughts on Jase and his debuts so far?
Yeah, I think if you've kind of listened to the our podcast in the past, or really any kind of Michigan State podcast, I think a lot of us were saying that like this is a really good spot. This is kind of a prime spot for Jase, and you've seen in the first two games, like he has contributed. He's been a key part of this team. He's hitting shots. He's in a really good spot, and you're seeing why Jase should have been a lottery pick, is he has the potential, he has the ability to play with these guys, and he's going to be a guy that's going to contribute with this Orlando Magic team. He's just doing everything that this team struggled with last year. Again, the really major concern for him was obviously defense and height, and we've seen that hasn't really been an issue. We've seen kind of him do what he did at Michigan State: make tough shots, make threes, get to the free throw line. He's going to continue to do that. He's done that in his first couple of games. I think he's going to continue to do that. I think he's going to absolutely contribute to the team in the NBA. I don't think he'll be in the G League for anyone that was concerned about it. Obviously, it's just summer league, but through two games, this looks like a really good pick. And I think everyone for Michigan State was saying that at the beginning, and it just seems like it's a good fit so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And much like you said, we talked about it at a little bit of length when he got drafted, but hopefully this leads to some good times, some good minutes, and some good performances for Orlando this fall. So, the good vibes had to pause for a little bit moment. Let's switch over to hockey. Rough couple of weeks for the hockey program. Not necessarily anything super unexpected. But some rough news overall, I guess. We'll start first in something that's been kind of rumored since the NHL draft, but it never really took shape that weekend. We did find out recently that Isaac Howard and his draft rights were actually traded from Tampa Bay to the Edmonton Oilers for another prospect. Ike, right as soon as he was traded, ended up signing his entry-level contract. So unfortunately, he officially will not be back in East Lansing next year like we anticipated. Sad to see him go. Obviously, he meant a whole lot for this program. And it's tough when you're losing the Hobey Baker winner, but it's also very uncommon for the Hobey Baker winner to actually be coming back to school. So kind of expected. At the end of the season last year, we didn't think Ike really had a chance of being back. Just kind of Tampa Bay's, I guess, mismanagement a little bit with him and his contract shot us a glimmer of hope, but unfortunately that was dashed. As a Red Wings fan, I'm okay that he was traded out of the division and out of the conference. I was kind of hoping the Red Wings would actually trade for him, but that's not the case. Hard to be sad, though, if you're in the Isaac Howard camp, because he immediately gets traded to a team that is in win now mode, a team that is in need for some additional scoring. And if he has a good camp, you could see him this year playing on a line with Leon Draisaitl or potentially Connor McDavid, two of the best, probably four players in the planet. So don't feel bad for Ike. He's in a very good scenario, and he has the best chance to make an opportunity if he can continue to put the puck in the net the way he did in East Lansing. Congrats to him, of course. That's super exciting news. If you're a Spartan Hockey fan, unfortunately, his roster spot is now open for next year. If you're keeping tabs on the recruiting, we had one roster spot going into these last few weeks that we had hopefully penciled in for Gavin McKenna. Now with Ike leaving, that's two roster spots open, and it's going to stay open for right now, because transitioning to the other bit of news, Gavin McKenna, unfortunately, committed to Penn State over the Spartans. That news broke this past week. Again, not necessarily the most unsurprising. Penn State was known to be in the hunt for him the whole time he was thinking about making the switch. Ultimately, I'm sure you all read the news, and if you've listened to us, if you listen to Jeremy Dewar, any other hockey-related podcast with his recruitment, the story has been probably told a lot, but MSU put together a fairly decent NIL offer, but was more pitching the side of, we're the best chance for you to develop your game in your 1 year of college. We have the best strength and conditioning staff. We got the better facilities, better NHL structured coaching, and we were hoping a decent NIL offer on top of the better hockey stuff would win out. But unfortunately, Penn State made a massive NIL offer, and I think that made Gavin's decision a little bit easier on his mind. If the rumored numbers are true, Penn State's NIL offer was in the ballpark of $700,000. Michigan State's was between the $200,000 and $300,000 or 200 and $300,000 neighborhood. So we're talking potentially double by Penn State, if not more. And I mean, Penn State's no slouch. They're returning a roster that went to the Frozen Four. Their recruiting's been on the uptick quite well too. Terry Pegula, the owner of the Sabres, he has put an absurd amount of money into Penn State hockey and really kind of forced them to be competitive. Kudos to him. I guess when you're a billionaire and you want to spend money on your favorite teams, that's what you do. And he's certainly done it. He completely renovated their arenas, made their facilities competitive, and now is doing whatever it takes to get the best players and the best prospects. Penn State is going to be a tough team to beat. SU is still quite okay. We're still featuring a roster with roughly, I think, 12 to 13 NHL draft picks. We're returning the best goaltender in college hockey. We're returning a strong senior leadership or upperclassmen leadership. We also have high impact potential recruiting in Riker Lee, Caden Lindstrom coming over. We still have younger guys like Shane Van Sage on the roster. So players that should be making big impacts this year on their own right. Plus we have 2 open roster spots. And we've all kind of heard that MSU recruiting is going to be still looking to add a decent splash. So whether it be someone like a Porter Martone, who was picked in the top 10 of this year's NHL draft, who's also coming over from the CHL, wasn't sure if they were going to play NHL hockey or not, somebody like that. So there's still plenty of players that MSU could add. I think Martone's probably one of the more well-known options, and I know MSU did have him on a visit at one point and plans to be interested in him. There's some high-profile defensemen coming over that are still potentially on the board. We do need forwards, though, so I don't know how well that's going to translate. Regardless, there's still options, so don't panic, and even if we end with what we have and just add a couple of other not as high-known players, we're still going to be just fine. So a lot of hockey news. Sorry to kind of ramble and take Zach out of it for a second, but a lot to cover. Zach, what were your thoughts losing Gavin McKenna, losing Isaac Howard in probably a day and a half span? Not the best couple of days stretch for the Spartan hockey program, but still optimistic. How are we feeling overall about everything that's happened this past week?
Yeah, no, there's definitely obviously a lot of levels of optimism to have. Obviously, it would be nice to have Gavin McKenna. Obviously, it would be nice to have Ike Howard, but it's just what it is. Like, it's not a great day and a half for MSU. Ironically, it seems like we can never have good news between the 3 major sports at MSU. It always seems like hockey was like our upward trajectory. Like, things are going really well. You have Nightingale just recruiting. You have MSU and Gavin McKenna. You have Ike Howard coming back. It always seemed like MSU hockey was sunny when MSU football was just panic all over the place. And now you have football doing great things. It seems like you have basketball with Jase Richardson, and now it seems like hockey goes the opposite way. So why can't we have all 3? I don't necessarily know, but overall, not really much level to be panic at all. Like you were saying, Chris, ton of talent on this roster. Best goalie coming back. Nightingale, probably the best coach, or one of the best coaches in college hockey. Still going to be a really fun team. Obviously, would have loved to Ike Howard back. Not necessarily the case, but just it is what it is. And if Nightingale brings a couple more talented players back, guess what? MSU is still going to be a really good team. They're going to be a team that's going to be competing for the Big Ten, and the Big Ten has always been really good. And it's been having to beat some of these teams like Minnesota, having to beat Michigan, now having to beat Penn State. This is something that this team has done, and now really the next step to overcome is trying to get to that Frozen Four, trying to get to a national championship game and trying to win it. And I think they've accomplished everything they've wanted to up to that point. And even if they don't necessarily accomplish winning a Big Ten, if they do accomplish of winning a national championship, guess what? I'm sure the fan base will be completely fine with it.
I'll take that.
It's all about competing and hopefully winning a national championship, and obviously losing Isaac Howard, not giving Gavin McKenna. Are you probably the favorites right now? No, probably not. But guess what? What's the likelihood of a favorite winning the national championship in hockey? Eastern Michigan was definitely not one of them. There's a lot of teams, a lot of years that the favorites do not win the national championship in hockey. It's just the way it is. It's about how you perform during that time. It's a single elimination tournament. So if you play well, we've seen Michigan State do that. We've seen Michigan State fall short of it where they shouldn't have. It's just hockey. It's all about playing at the right time. And this team is going to be really talented. This team is going to be competing for a chance to hopefully win a national championship. And if they do, guess what? People won't be thinking what happened to Gavin McKenna, because Gavin McKenna is going to be the number 1 overall pick.
And in the NHL probably after.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, no, but you said it exactly, and it's my least favorite thing about the NCAA tournament being single elimination. Things happen in hockey. One bad bounce, one bad stick break, something, you could end your season. And also the term getting goalied is a thing for a reason, because you may have the better team and just run into a hot goalie, which MSU kind of did to an extent with Cornell. I know we still scored a little bit, but their goalie was playing out of his mind for a little bit in our tournament game last year, and it just happens. And hey, when you're the one who's got the best goalie in the country, even if you underperform a little bit in the regular season but still get into the NCAA tournament, Trey Augustine can easily go on a run and win you 4 or 5 games in a row and get you where you want to be. So It's not anything to necessarily lose sleep over. Like we said, tons of talent still on this roster, both upperclassmen and lowerclassmen, underclassmen, which brings me to just my last point I wanted to touch on in hockey. 4 Spartans, and they happen to be all younger Spartans, or transfers, I should say, newer Spartans, were named to the World Junior Summer Showcases for their countries. 2 Americans, a Canadian and a Swedish prospect, all going to their basically World Junior teams, summer tryouts and summer camps. And then the World Junior rosters get narrowed down from there. All 4 of these players are probably favorites to make their team's rosters, and you'll likely see, probably all 4 of them playing in the World Juniors this year in Minnesota. Those 4 would be for the Americans, Riker Lee and Shane Van Sage. Both of them will probably make the roster. For Canada, you have Caden Lindstrom. He, barring any setback with the injury, I would assume would make Team Canada. And then Eric Nilsson for the Swedes. He's a really talented player as well, so I would imagine he would be on Team Sweden. So that right there shows you 4 newer Spartans. And I know Shane was here last year, but he's still a younger player. Just got drafted this year to the Blues or the Flyers. Sorry, the Flyers in the NHL draft. But he, they're all going to be representing or have a chance to represent their country in Minneapolis and St. Paul this winter. So congrats to those guys, Riker, Caden, Eric, and Shane. It might be sad to see them have to take a couple weeks off the MSU schedule, but a chance to go represent your country at the World Juniors is definitely a huge accomplishment and a huge honor. So congrats to them. That's really exciting. And in terms of this upcoming season, that right there, you got four potential players going to make national teams just right there. And Charlie Strammel, I know, would have been one. Trey Augustine would have been one, but they're too old to be competing. So the young guys representing and will, hopefully hold it down for the Spartans. So lots to be excited for MSU hockey. Still absolutely get your tickets to MUN. It's going to be must-see TV. Maybe the Penn State series might be a little more highly touted now even if you aren't salty about Gavin McKenna not coming here, he's worth the price of admission, so you'll want to see him checked out. So with that being said, that's all we really had news-wise. We'll be back next week with another episode, kind of keeping up to date on everything, getting you primed. We are, was it just under 7 weeks we were talking about yesterday? Just a few weeks away from MSU football we're getting to be. So we'll do a couple of things to preview the season and get you ready for that, of course. We've got a couple of other ideas for shows in mind to pass the time, and maybe a couple guests as well. So still lots of stuff to get out before the summer ends and we get into football season and be full go with the schedule. So, Zach, did you want to say anything before we signed off for the night?
Nope, all good. Really fun episode. The last we talked about, we had quite a bit of ups, some downs, but just excited for MSU football. I believe it's 47 days now. So when this comes out, it might be 46, might be 45. Just depends on how long it takes Chris to edit it, which I always really appreciate it. But yeah, really fun episode and excited for MSU.
This is where Emmett being here would have been nice. We'll blame him for not having this number ready to go. Yep. I did pull up his Twitter profile because he's got the countdown on it. Today is 47 days. Tomorrow, which is probably when the episode will be posted, I'll probably have it edited tonight and it'll go up tomorrow. So 46 days by the time you're watching this, potentially. We're getting close. We're almost that month away. It seems crazy that the summer's flying by. I know my son's already dreading the thought of having to go back to school in a month, and I can't believe we're already talking about that possibly being a thing too. So time's flying by. Football will be here before you know it, and then we'll be full go with that. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, any questions, concerns, comments, anything you want us to talk about on air, just let us know. Reach out to us in the socials and the comments of the YouTube page, whatever you need to do. Our email address, spartanshadowspodcast@gmail.com. And then we'll be back next week with more fun to talk about. So, Zach, appreciate you joining me, and everybody else. You guys have a great night and a great rest of your week, and go green.
Go